In the heart of Boston, where old money meets new ambition, I built my empire from other people's trash. My name is Mike Harrison, and people around here call me the Garbage King. Not exactly the nickname you dream of as a kid, but I wear it like a crown these days. 20 years ago, I started with one garbage truck and a dream. Now, I own Harrison Waste Management, a company worth north of $50 million. The irony isn't lost on me. I made my fortune collecting what others throw away. Growing up in South Boston, my father always told me, "Mikey, there's no shame in honest work." He worked the docks for 40 years, coming home with calloused hands and a straight spine. I learned early that it wasn't about what you do, but how well you do it. My story started in the summer of '95, fresh out of Boston College with a business degree and a mountain of student debt. While my classmates chased Wall Street dreams, I saw opportunity in what they overlooked. The city's waste management system was inefficient, and small businesses were paying too much for too little service. With a $50,000 loan from my father's pension and my savings, I bought my first garbage truck. It wasn't much to look at, a beaten-up 1990 Mack that broke down twice in the first month. But it was mine, and it was the beginning. I started by undercutting the big companies' prices, offering better service to local restaurants and shops. Every morning, I was up at 4 a.m., driving routes myself, learning every alley and loading dock in Boston. The first year was brutal. I lived on coffee and determination. My competitors thought I was crazy, offering 24/7 emergency pickup services with just one truck. But that's how I built my reputation, being there when others wouldn't. By year 3, I had 5 trucks and 15 employees. The Garbage King nickname started as a joke among my workers. I remember Joey, my first employee, saying, "Mike's building himself a kingdom, one dumpster at a time." The name stuck, especially after I started winning major municipal contracts. By 2000, Harrison Waste Management was handling waste disposal for half of Boston's suburbs. I diversified into recycling and hazardous waste management, staying ahead of environmental regulations. The real breakthrough came in 2005 when I developed a proprietary waste sorting system. It increased recycling efficiency by 40% and cut operational costs by a third. Suddenly, the joke wasn't so funny anymore. The Garbage King was making serious money. I expanded into Connecticut, then Rhode Island, building transfer stations and recycling centers. The big corporations tried to buy me out, offering millions to take Harrison Waste off my hands. But this wasn't just a business to me anymore. It was my legacy. I remember sitting in my first real office, looking out over the Boston Harbor. The same waters my father worked on for 4 decades now carried my ships, transporting processed waste and recyclables. My competitors see, I'll let me lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. I worked 18-hour days, learned every aspect of the business from the ground up. I knew the name of every driver, every mechanic, every customer service rep. We were family, and that's what set us apart. By 2010, Harrison Waste Management was the largest independently owned waste management company in New England. Our annual revenue hit $100 million, and we employed over 500 people. The Wall Street Journal called us the most innovative player in waste management. Forbes featured me in their Self-Made Success series, highlighting our environmental initiatives. That's when I met Sarah Parker. She was handling environmental compliance for a law firm we hired. Harvard Law School graduate, brilliant, beautiful, and completely out of my league. Or so I thought. She seemed fascinated by my success story. Called me a diamond in the rough. I should have realized then that she saw me as a project, not a partner. But I was smitten, caught up in her world of elegant dinner parties and sophisticated conversation. When we married in 2012, the Boston Globe called it a modern fairy tale. The Garbage Man and the Harvard Lawyer. It made for good headlines. Sarah kept her maiden name, said it was important for her professional identity. I didn't mind then. I was proud of her career, her ambition. I even paid for her to get an environmental law degree, thinking we could build something together. But success has a way of showing people's true colors, and money can't buy class or loyalty. Looking back now, I can see the warning signs I missed. The way she'd introduce me at parties, carefully avoiding mentioning what I did for a living. How she'd steer conversations away from work, unless she was talking about her own cases. But that's getting ahead of the story. First, you need to understand what I built. By 2020, Harrison Waste Management was worth over $200 million, with operations in 6 states. We'd pioneered new recycling technologies, won environmental awards, set industry standards. I'd built something real, something that mattered. And I did it all without compromising who I was. Just a South Boston kid who saw value in what others discarded. The irony of my story isn't lost on me. I built an empire on garbage, only to find real trash in my own home. But that's the thing about the American dream. It doesn't always look the way you expect it to. Sometimes it smells like garbage and sounds like trash trucks at dawn. Sometimes it's built on broken things that others throw away. And sometimes it teaches you that the real value isn't in what you collect, but in what you build, what you learn, and most importantly, what you refuse to throw away. Like your dignity, like your principles, like the truth. But that's getting ahead of our story. First, let me tell you about the Christmas party that changed everything. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes tea's served with a side of justice and wrapped in the very thing they look down on you for. In my case, it was wrapped in garbage, and it was worth every single penny. Our first meeting was at the Four Seasons in downtown Boston, where her law firm was hosting an environmental compliance seminar. Sarah Parker wore a Chanel suit and pearls, but it was her Harvard Law coffee mug that caught my attention. "That's quite a fancy cup for hotel coffee," I said, trying to break the ice. She looked up with those sharp blue eyes and replied, "The cup is just for show. I actually prefer gas station coffee." That was the moment I fell for her, when I thought she had a sense of humor about her privileged background. Our worlds couldn't have been more different. She grew up in Beacon Hill, surrounded by old money and expectations. Her father was a federal judge. Her mother sat on various charitable boards. Meanwhile, I was the guy who got up at 4 a.m. to make sure other people's trash disappeared before they woke up. During our courtship, Sarah seemed fascinated by what she called my authentic entrepreneurial spirit. She'd ask endless questions about the business, genuinely interested in how I'd built it from nothing. "You're not just collecting garbage," she'd say. "You're solving one of society's fundamental problems." We dated for a year, during which she seemed to embrace my world completely. She'd come to company picnics, chat with my drivers and their families. She even rode along in one of the trucks once, claiming she wanted to understand the business from the ground up. The proposal happened at my father's favorite diner. Nothing fancy, just honest and real. "You're sure?" she asked, looking at the simple diamond ring. "A Harvard lawyer and a garbage man?" I replied, "No, just 2 people who love each other." She said yes, and I thought I had everything figured out. The wedding was a clash of worlds. My side filled with working-class heroes in rented tuxedos. Her side was all pressed suits and designer dresses, judging the cash bar and buffet-style dinner. But Sarah seemed happy, dancing with my father, laughing with my cousins. The Boston Globe called it a modern Cinderella story, though they got it backward. I was supposedly the one marrying up. The first 2 years were perfect, or what I thought was perfect. We bought a beautiful house in Brookline, close enough to the city, but with good schools nearby. Sarah continued her legal career, while I focused on expanding the business. Then came her interest in environmental law and her desire to pursue an additional degree. "It'll help us both," she argued. "I can handle all your company's environmental compliance." The degree cost nearly $200,000. but I was proud to support her ambition. I paid for everything: tuition, books, even a new home office. She studied nights and weekends, while I handled everything else. Looking back, I should have seen how the balance of power was shifty. Ing. It started with small things. The way she'd correct my grammar at dinner parties, how she'd wince when I used industry jargon, or talked about the day-to-day operations of waste management. She began hosting dinner parties for her colleagues. But somehow, I was always working late those nights. "You wouldn't enjoy it anyway," she'd say. "It's just boring legal talk." The invitations to her firm's events stopped coming, except for the mandatory ones like the annual Christmas party. She started working later and later, claiming big cases needed her attention. Her new degree led to a promotion at her firm, specializing in environmental compliance law. The irony was thick. She now made her living telling companies like mine what to do with their waste. But something else was wasting away: our marriage. She stopped riding along in the trucks, stopped coming to company events. The woman who once proudly introduced me as an environmental entrepreneur now vaguely referred to me as in waste management. I noticed she'd started wearing her wedding ring less often, claiming it wasn't professional to wear jewelry to court. Her father, the judge, stopped inviting me to their family gatherings, always with convenient excuses about limited space. Then came the late-night phone calls, the mysterious work emergencies. Her perfume changed. Her wardrobe got more expensive. She joined a new gym, though she never seemed to go there when I checked. The final straw was finding a receipt for a hotel room on a night she was supposedly at a conference. The hotel was 3 blocks from her office, and the receipt showed room service for 2. I didn't confront her immediately, something my father taught me about picking the right moment. Instead, I watched and waited, gathering information like I used to gather trash, systematically and thoroughly. I noticed a pattern in her late nights. They always coincided with one particular partner's schedule: Stanley Morrison, junior partner, Harvard Law School, old money, everything I wasn't. I saw how they looked at each other during firm events, the inside jokes, the casual touches. But I needed more than suspicions. I needed proof. That's when the annual Christmas party invitation arrived, and for the first time in years, I decided to accept. Sarah's reaction was immediate and telling. Pure panic hidden behind a practiced smile. "You never enjoy these things," she said. "Why start now?" I just smiled and said I wanted to support her career, watching her try to hide her discomfort. What she didn't know was that beneath my simple exterior lay years of training she couldn't imagine. Before waste management, before college, I had another life, another skill set. The CIA had recruited me straight out of high school, trained me in a very particular skill. I could read lips with near-perfect accuracy, a talent that had served me well in my previous life. Now, that skill was about to serve me again, though not in a way I see, would have ever anticipated. As the Christmas party approached, Sarah became increasingly nervous. She made excuses, suggested alternatives, tried everything to discourage me from attending. But I held firm, playing the role of the supportive, oblivious husband. Little did she know, she was about to learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the guy who makes his living dealing with other people's garbage. Because sometimes, the best way to take out the trash is to let it expose itself. And that's exactly what happened. At the Christmas party from hell, the Ritz-Carlton Boston Ballroom sparkled with holiday decor, crystal chandeliers reflecting off golden ornaments. I adjusted my Tom Ford suit, a recent purchase that cost more than my first truck. Sarah had tried one last time to dissuade me that morning. "These parties are always so boring for non-lawyers." I smiled and said, "I'll manage," watching her face tighten with barely concealed panic. We arrived fashionably late, around 8:30, when the party was in full swing. The room was filled with Boston's legal elite, all designer suits and perfect smiles. We found a table near the dance floor, strategically positioned to observe the entire room. "I'll get us drinks," I offered, noting how quickly Sarah's eyes darted around the room. At the bar, I got my first taste of how these people viewed me. "Ah, the garbage man," said a senior partner, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Waste management executive," I corrected, though I knew it wouldn't matter. "Of course," he smirked, turning away to join a group of laughing associates. I ordered our drinks. Scotch for me, white wine for Sarah. When I returned to our table, Sarah was already deep in conversation with colleagues. I watched her work the room, noting how she never quite introduced me to anyone. Then he appeared. Stanley Morrison, junior partner, early 40s. He moved with the confidence of old money. His Seville rose suit probably cost more than a used garbage truck. "Sarah," he called across the room, completely ignoring my presence. I watched their interaction carefully, my CIA training kicking in automatically. Their body language screamed intimacy. The way she angled toward him, the slight touch on his arm. But it was their lips I watched most carefully, reading their silent conversation. "Did you get the room?" Sarah's lips formed the words. 322, came his reply. I focused harder, catching fragments. "The drink. Shouldn't take long." My heart stopped as I read. "Make love in the same room my husband is sleeping in." The pieces fell into place. The drug drink sitting in front of me. I forced myself to stay calm, years of training taking over. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. I seemed to have spilled something on my jacket. I headed toward the restroom, but made a sharp turn toward the exit. The December air hit me like a slap, clearing my head momentarily. I needed to get home, needed to think clearly, but the drug was already taking effect, making the world spin dangerously. I made it to my car, knowing I shouldn't drive, but seeing no alternative. The last thing I remember was pulling on a Starro Drive. Then darkness, followed by the screech of metal on metal. I woke up to beeping monitors and the sharp smell of hospital antiseptic. A nurse was checking my vitals when Sarah rushed into the room. "Get her out," I shouted, my voice hoarse but firm. The nurse looked startled, but I continued. "She tried to kill me." Security was called, followed quickly by the police. The toxicology report confirmed my story. A dangerous cocktail of drugs in my system. The amount I'd consumed was nearly fatal. The full drink would have killed me. Detective James Martinez took my statement, his eyes narrowing at each detail. "You're saying your wife and her lover tried to drug you at a Christmas party?" I nodded, then added, "Check room 322 at the Ritz." The evidence they found there would later prove crucial. But what really sealed their fate was the elderly cleaning lady. She had seen Sarah put something in my drink, thinking it was hangover medicine. The perfect murder turned comedy of errors. The garbage man who refused to be disposed of. As they led Sarah away in handcuffs, she looked smaller somehow, less polished. The Harvard lawyer who married down was about to learn about a different kind of institution. And Stanley Morrison, the blue blood junior partner, would soon discover that orange jumpsuits aren't tailored. But the night wasn't quite over yet, and neither was my performance. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just surviving, it's watching your would-be killers realize they've drastically underestimated their mark. And in Boston's high society, that's a mistake you only make once. The garbage man they tried to dispose of was about to take out the real trash. And this time, there would be no recycling. The Boston Globe headline read, "Prominent lawyer and partner charged with attempted murder." The story made national news, a perfect scandal for the 24-hour news cycle. Harvard-educated attorney allegedly tries to kill waste management CEO husband. Ran across the bottom of every cable news channel. I sat in my lawyer's office, reviewing our strategy for the upcoming trial. "They'll try to discredit you," said Rachel Chun, my Harvard-educated attorney with a chip on her shoulder. "They'll say you're making it up, trying to avoid a costly divorce." Rachel had her own score to settle with the elite law firms, having been passed over for partnership due to her background. The preliminary hearing was a circus, media cameras crowding the courthouse steps. Sarah appeared in a modest navy suit, playing the role of wrongly accused wife. Stanley looked equally conservative, his usual smugness replaced by practiced concern. Their defense strategy became clear immediately. Paint me as a jealous husband manufacturing accusations. Their lie. R. Winston Sheffield 3. Tried to poke holes in my lip-reading testimony. So you expect us to believe that you just happen to be a CIA-trained lip reader? I smiled and replied, I expect you to verify it with the CIA. The prosecution called my former CIA instructor, who testified about my exceptional abilities. Mr. Harrison was in the top 1% of our program, with a 98% accuracy rate in field conditions. The toxicology expert was next, explaining the lethal cocktail found in my system. This combination of drugs, and the amount present in the full drink, would have caused respiratory failure, leading to death within hours. Sarah's perfect facade began to crack. When they showed the security footage, the Ritz-Carlton's cameras had caught everything. Her meeting with Stanley in the lobby, the exchange of something small and white, her approach to my drink when I wasn't looking. But the star witness was Maria Gonzalez, the 65-year-old cleaning lady. Yes, I saw Mrs. Parker put something in his drink. She testified, her voice clear and confident. She told another woman it was hangover medicine because her husband always drank too much. Sarah's lawyer tried to discredit Maria, suggesting her English wasn't good enough to understand. Maria switched to perfect Boston accented English. I've been cleaning these hotels for 30 years, counselor. I know the difference between helping someone and hurting someone. The jury loved her, and Sarah's face turned ashen. The prosecution's case was methodical. Motive means opportunity. They showed Sarah's credit card statements, hotel rooms booked under business expenses. They presented Stanley's phone records, hundreds of calls and texts at all hours. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source. A junior associate at the firm had kept a detailed diary. It documented Sarah and Stanley's affair, including their plans for my accident. The diary entry from the day before the party read, S&S discussed H's drinking problem, planned to use it as cover for whatever happens at the party. Sarah's lawyer requested a recess, knowing their case was crumbling. When court resumed, Sarah had changed her plea to guilty. She agreed to testify against Stanley in exchange for a lighter sentence. The details she revealed were chilling. Stanley had provided the drugs, calculated the dosage, planned the timing. They had chosen the Christmas party because it would explain my drinking. The car accident would look natural, just another drunk driver during the holidays. Stanley's trial was shorter but more dramatic. He maintained his innocence until the end. The jury took only 3 hours to find him guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing, I finally got to speak my piece. Your Honor, I built my fortune on what other people throw away. I thought I understood garbage, but I never expected to find it wearing designer suits. These two people didn't just try to kill me. They tried to kill W. Hat I represent. The idea that honest work, no matter how humble, is worth more than all the Harvard degrees and social connections in the world. The judge, a self-made man himself, showed no mercy. Stanley got 15 years. Sarah got 5. As they led them away, Sarah turned to me one last time. I'm sorry, Mike. I never meant for it to go this far. I looked her in the eye and said, read my lips. I don't care, because sometimes justice isn't about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about watching the mighty fall. And in Boston's social circles, they fell a very long way indeed. But the story wasn't quite over yet, because karma wasn't done with them. And the garbage man they tried to destroy, he was about to become a legend. The morning after the sentencing, the Wall Street Journal ran an unexpected headline. Harrison Waste Management stock soars. Market responds to CEO's vindication. While Sarah and Stanley headed to prison, my company's value had doubled. Turns out there's nothing America loves more than a self-made man who beats the odds. CNBC wanted interviews. Forbes planned a cover story. From garbage to glory. The Mike Harrison story. My PR team was flooded with requests, but I had other plans. First, I called a company-wide meeting at our main facility in South Boston. Every employee was there, from drivers to executives. You stuck with me through this mess. I told them, my voice thick with emotion. Now we're going to do something none of those Harvard lawyers ever expected. I announced our IPO plans, and something even bigger. Every employee who'd been with us over a year would receive stock options. The cheers were deafening, echoing off the warehouse walls. Joey, my first employee, now operations manager, wiped tears from his eyes. The garbage king sharing his crown. He laughed, hugging me tight. The IPO was set for spring. Perfect timing for new beginnings. Wall Street couldn't get enough of our story. The blue-collar company with cutting-edge technology. Our environmental innovations, once sneered at by Sarah's legal circles, were now being studied. At Harvard Business School, the stock opened at $45, closed at $112. By market close, I was worth over $1 billion. My father watched from home, too sick to come to the exchange. You did good, Mikey, he said on the phone. You did real good. He passed away that night, finally losing his battle with cancer. At his funeral, every Harrison Waste employee showed up. The line of garbage trucks stretched for 3 miles. The Boston Globe called it a king's tribute to a common man. They didn't understand. My father was the real king. He taught me that dignity doesn't come from what you do, but how you do it and who you're all doing it. After the IPO success, the marriage proposals started coming in. Socialites, models, even a few lawyers, all wanting to be the next Mrs. Harrison. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same people who once looked down on me were now desperate to be part of my world. I focused instead on expanding the business and something else Sarah never understood, giving back to the community that had given me my start. We established the Harrison Foundation, providing scholarships for working-class kids, funded environmental research, built community centers in South Boston. The judge who sentenced Sarah and Stanley became a close friend. You know what the difference is, he said once. You never forgot where you came from. Sarah wrote to me from prison, asking for forgiveness. Stanley's lawyers attempted appeals. All of them failed. Their world had crumbled. Harvard revoked their alumni honors. The Bar Association suspended their licenses. Their social circles evaporated. Meanwhile, Harrison Waste Management became Harrison Environmental Solutions. We revolutionized waste processing, developed new recycling technologies. The company that started with 1 truck now operated in 20 states. The media loved the contrast, the convict lawyers and the billionaire garbage man. But they missed the real story. It was never about money or revenge. It was about proving that character matters more than credentials, that honest work, no matter how humble, is worth more than all the ivy-covered walls and country club memberships in the world. Today, when people call me the Garbage King, I wear the title with pride because I learned something important. Real trash isn't what's in our dumpsters. It's the prejudice, arrogance, and betrayal that some people carry in their hearts. And sometimes, the best way to deal with garbage is to turn it into something valuable. That's what I did with my pain, my anger, my betrayal. I turned it into an empire, a legacy, a message. And now, when Harvard Business School students study the Harrison success story, they learn that true class has nothing to do with social class. As for me, I'm still the same guy who gets up at dawn, checks on his trucks, and knows every driver's name. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you collect, it's about what you build and who you help along the way. That's the real American dream, and nobody can steal that from you, not even a Harvard lawyer. With murder on her mind. The end.